All right, welcome to Bows and Clothes. This is what we're making today. It's the round purse, but this is a fully lined in the hoop version. I'm using the MAV panels from Fairy Tale Prints. This is the 120 size, so it's 120% of what the original MAV panels are. It is lined completely on the inside with two inner zipper pockets. Here's my little pockets. You can see little pockets. It has a strap that is also made in the hoop if you happen to have the 8x12 hoop. Very simple. I use the clamps on them. Nothing too complex. This is made for a multi-needle. So I'm using this over here is, come say mommy, is my multi-needle. If you notice, look at how high these feet are. You have plenty of room for all of this to work. If you have a single needle and your foot is all the way down here, it's not gonna like this. This is a bulky design. So you wanna make sure that your foot can go fairly high. Like I would want it at least as tall as my finger. You can also do it on a sewing machine if you are one of the sewers. It's not hard. We're gonna come back over here. This is a very involved design. It's not something that you make in 15 minutes. So you wanna plan ahead for this. Here is the first part we're doing, which is the zipper and gusset panel, which is this around the middle. And it will be lined. These are my fabrics. I have my vinyl. I have my size 5 zipper with my little pull. These are the hardwares that I'm choosing to use because I'm gonna add them later. On this, I didn't use the ring. I just put this directly on it. And I found out that that's a really, really bulky thing to try to go over. And I'm not repeating that thing. So this way I can add these later because these are split and these will be my little loops that I will put in. It comes in the design. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm choosing terrible thread choices on purpose because I want you to be able to see it. So normally I would match my thread to something that's not very obvious instead of bright red with this. So this is step one. And as you can see on my thing, it only takes 4 minutes to actually stitch, but it takes longer than that to make, especially the first few times if you're not quite sure how you're doing it and you have to keep going back and forth between the video and directions. Now is our zipper placement. You want to tape this. I'm holding it just to make it quicker for the zipper, but it just lines up in between these two lines. Next, we're taking our hoop off of our machine. Once your hoop is upside down with the top at the top as you're looking at it, you're going to put one of your little strips and you line it up at this top line. You just want to overlap it just slightly. And we're going to then tape this in place. Keeping our top at our top, we make sure that it's there. We're going to put it back on our machine. And we're stitching step 3 now. And you can see it goes right over the original spot. Now we're going to take it off. Come over here. Remove our tape. And now this gets bent up. If you have a little iron, you can iron it flat on the hoop if you want. I don't. But lots of people prefer to have a straight crease. And I'm just going to tape it right there. And now we're ready for our next one. And our next one gets lined up at the bottom going towards the top. And we're going to tape this guy. Oop, make sure he's in between the little lines. Flip it back over. Again, make sure you put your hoop on the right way if you have one machine that lets you go opposite ways. Oopsie. Stitch step 4. Our hoop comes off of the machine. We're going to remove our tape just like the previous. We'll just tear it along the stitches. And we're going to turn this down and put our tape back down. Again, you can iron this if you want. So it's just like that. We're going to turn it this way. And these are our two little pieces of our vinyl, and we want them right against the zipper pull. And I'm just gonna stick a little glob of hot glue. I am much happier with hot glue than anything else against the teeth. I think I called it a zipper pull earlier. Oopsie. Hot. Now it goes back to our machine. Stitching step 5. And I'm just going to hold it to make sure my thing stays against the teeth. Now we need to add the zipper pull. So I'm just going to burn my edges slightly so that the zipper doesn't fray. And then here's my first attempt at putting my zipper pull on, because I am really bad at this. I shove it on a little bit and I put the second piece in, and then I go zip. No, I didn't go zip. All right. So we're gonna try it again. Put it on, and then you shove the second one in. I'm holding it, and I go zip. Almost, maybe. Ha! I zipped. There we go. Pull in the very center. Now we're putting these pieces on. You can put your D-rings on now if you want. Otherwise, just leave them if you're going with the method I'm going with. They need to be on the inside, and there's no exact measurement of how big you want them. I try to go with about 1 inch in. We can see where my seams end. So I'm going to go with about 1 inch in. Make sure that they are evenly spaced. And then I'm going to go with my tapey method. Tapey. And you want to make sure that they are lined up with each other also. And I'm going to do the other one. Fold in half. And if you want to be exact on everything, you can measure this, of course. Next, we're going to our machine, and we are on step 6. Now we take our 16-inch piece face down. We're going to line it right up at the ends right here, so it's even with this. Stitching step 7. And you can tape it if you're not happy with holding it. That's probably a smarter plan. It does one side and it jumps to the other side. I'm going to pause it. So I want to be able to move this piece here out of the way so it doesn't catch it. And then I'm going to line this one back up, just overlapping a little bit of that line, and stitching this one. And I'm just continuing step 7 now. Our hoop comes off. We have finished stitching here. We're coming here. Move my hoop aside. I'm going to remove my stabilizer and all my tape. Once you've gotten it out of the hoop and most of it torn away from the edges, turn it over, tear it out from inside of the zipper. Make sure you get it all out of here because you just don't want this extra bulk that it's going to give you. So I'm going to tear it away from inside here. I got most of it. I need to take all my tape off. You can see here's our little pieces for our hardware. And now we are going to go to the regular sewing machine. We have our zipper panel done this far from our machine. We're going to trim these up right through our zipper on both sides. looking like this. Now we need to go right sides together of our fabric. Put one side here, and then we're going to stitch this. And we're using a 3/8 seam allowance. And we want to make sure this sucker stays. So I'm just going to go back and forth on it. Probably not really necessary, but it's one of the things that I constantly do just to be sure. So I'm just taking the next side, just again, right sides to right sides. Trim my threads. When we open it up, we look like this. Looking good. Now we want to top stitch this because we want to make sure that this has a nice pretty little seam here. And do it on either side. We're laying them flat and just right along the edge. And as you can see, we just went straight across right there. This is going to get done to the other side also. I'm going to trim these. See, missed. And now I want to just do a basting stitch all the way around to keep my fabric and my vinyl all together. So I'm going to make sure it's all lined up and just pick a spot and go. And just about 1/8 of an inch, just enough to keep my fabric and vinyl together. And I'm going to go all the way around. I'm not going to bother back stitching because this is just a basting to keep it all together. And you'll notice this is slightly longer. That's fantastic because this phrase, because I did not use any sort of interfacing, which I probably should have, but I didn't have any here, and I just wanted to get it sewn anyway. That's okay. And we'll do the other side now. And now I can trim this. So this is all nice and flat. And now we have our zipper panel and gusset. I'll trim my threads in a bit. And we are ready to move on with the design. You can see it's lined on each side. Now that we have this part finished, we're moving on to the next embroidery section, which is the pocket. And your pocket will be this with your zipper. And it opens. I haven't torn away my stabilizer, silly me. And this is what it looks like on the back by the time you're done stitching it. And then we'll iron it going up twice, little 1/2 inches, and we'll stitch down the side so you'll have a pocket with the middle open, and that's what you're turning your purse through. So our goal with these pieces is to make this, and it's fairly simple once you've done it a few times. I have made the pattern pieces so that they're printable. You have the measurements in your directions, but you also have the little pieces so that you know that you can line them up on your pattern however you want them. And I have cut them out twice so that you can make one of each, because it does take 2 of them. So if you want to print them out twice or just keep your fabric folded, whatever is easiest for you. So now we're going to move to the machine. As you can see, it's only a 4-minute stitch out. 1,401 stitches. Might vary by your machine. So this is just the general shape that your purse is going to be. So if you're using any sort of fancy fabric where you say, I want this, you know, bird right in the center, you're able to center it that way and make sure you get all of your picture. That's the only reason for the whole outline. These are your zipper marks. You're going to use these little tiny
tab things, however you want to call them, for your pieces. Let's move over and grab the zipper. I have my zipper, which is much longer because that's the size I had. It goes right in between, and you want to make sure you have room on either side for your pole and your thing, your little end, so you don't hit it. And you want to tape this in place. I'm just holding it because the video doesn't need to be any longer than it already is. But if you're at all worried about getting your hands, and you really should be, of course, for all safety reasons, please keep your hands away and just use tape. We have now stitched down our zipper. Now, we want our zipper in the center. We're going to move him over. The pole, sorry. Yes. I'm going to trim my edges some. Not too close, but close enough. Move that out of the way. Move those out of the way. Oh, I'm going to trim that a little bit closer, except Mom's camera's in the way. What's with her? There we go. And if you want, you can heat seal your edges right now if you're worried about those fraying at all. But now we are ready for our next pieces. Let's move over to this. Piece A and B. Well, B and A, because I have them backwards. They're the same thing. We're going to grab these little pieces. They go to your ends. You can see your little end pieces, those little lines, upside down, just overlapping it slightly. And again, you should tape, not hold. But for the video, I'm just holding. And then the other one. And these can overlap by a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. You got some wiggle room because they are long enough that you're not going to have any issue. All right. Now we're going to take our hoop off of our machine. I'm going to pull these pieces back gently. They can have a little bit of give. You don't want them crazy tight, or else it's not going to catch it. You can't quite pull it all the way. So we just move them back to where they're just slightly snug, a little bit of space, and you're good. We're going to flip it over, keeping our top at the top. Our pieces are labeled C, D, E, and F. They go alphabetically, so it's at least easy to not miss what you're doing here. So C is going to be our pocket. It will end up like this. So it goes upside down, and you want this hanging over the top. You see your little middle notch piece and the little notch that was cut out, which is also shown on the pattern piece, and it's also in your directions to cut it in half. We're going to overlap that just slightly, and we're going to tape this down. I'm just going to grab more tape because that tape is apparently not coming off for me. And we want to be sure this little guy stays, because if this moves, you have to take it back out, and that's really frustrating. Flip it back over. And now I'm just going to tape this up here also, because I have a tendency to take this off once I get to my hoop by smacking it. Now, piece D is our next one. As you can see, it has the notch also. It's also going over the top. I'm going to move my zipper pull all the way to the left. Yes, left. I'm going to notch this, or line my notch up right here and just overlap it slightly. And again, I'm going to tape this little guy down. And my machine will go right through blue painter's tape. Kind of perforates it. It is not an issue. I'm going to flip that up just till I get it on my machine. We come back here. Flip you down. And we are ready for stitch 4. When it gets to the middle here, I'm going to pause it. Pause, because my zipper pull is right there. I'm going to roll this up, and depending on how much space you have, this is an MB4. I love her. She has a ton of room from here to here, so I can reach right through and move my zipper. If you don't have that, like the 10 needle really doesn't have as much clearance, so you're going to need to get it out of the way. You need to make sure that it is past, I put it all the way, at least past this to where it's going to sew. You don't want to get it, but you might need to use tweezers or however is going to work for you. And continue stitching. On to step 5. Now that this is done stitching, we're going to peel our tape off, and we're going to pull this piece down. And again, you don't want it super tight, but you want a nice crisp edge here. If you have one of those cute little irons, you can iron it. I had one, except I think Mommy took it back because I stole it from her. So
No,
I'm just...
I didn't take it.
Oh, well, it's here. I just didn't use it. That's fine.
It's lost in your room.
Yeah, if you saw my craft room, you would understand. I'm just hot gluing at the end because I really like hot glue. You can tape it if you want, whatever you're comfortable with. And you can see I got my tape here. It does not matter. I'm just going to peel it right off. Yeah, see how quick that is? It just kind of perforates it and away it goes. Don't go there. And we're going to do the same thing. Oopsie, I forgot I taped my guy down. On this side, we're going to pull it down flat, but we're not yanking the living daylights out of it because you won't be able to line up your stitch later. So just right here, and again, if you want to use your little iron, you can. Flip it back over, and we go back to our machine for step 5. And you might want to use a coordinating thread color. I used white because of the video. And I'm going to move my red right out of the way. So notice my pole is over here. When I get around to that half bar, somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4, then I want to move it out of the way. And again, just so that it's not going to get caught. And then we finish the stitching. There we go. I've taken my hoop off my machine now. We're going to flip it over, keeping your top at your top. And now we've moved on to piece E. And piece E goes right side down, lined up at the top. See the middle little line just over with the little, what do you call that? Little V cut that I took. And again, I'm just going to hot glue mine. It's a notch, Mom is telling me. I would agree. And I'm just going to glue this down because I can peel it off later, and that makes sure that it stays. Ouch, that's still hot there. But of course, you can just tape it if you want. I'm going to flip it back over, and now we've moved on to F. Piece F. Go to your little notch, and it goes right over the top, right there. And this one I am just going to tape because it's on top of my hoop. And remember, our zipper pull is right here still. You can feel it. Going back to our machine. Stitching step 6. And again, when I get to about halfway, I'm going to pause my machine. Move my little zipper pull all the way to the other side. And continue stitching. I'm going to take my tape off and flip this up. And just like before, I don't need to have this be super tight. And look, I found my iron. All right, Mom found the iron. You can just iron this, a nice crisp little thing. You might want to take it off your hoop. That's probably a better plan. And don't melt your zipper. I can't get all the way over to it, of course, because it's still on my machine. But if you prefer to iron it so you have a nice crisp cut, you certainly can. And now I'm going to do step 7. And you can see right here, it goes down and gets your little tabs that you did originally. And once we get about halfway, I'm going to pause my machine and move my pole over because we really don't want to catch that. And now we continue step 7. Next, we're going to take this off. With my hoop off, I'm going to turn it over. This is our pocket. I'm going to peel up on my hot glue. And I'm just going to roll this little guy up. And I'm going to tape it up here because I don't want this to get stuck. That was a really weeny piece of tape. Don't do that. Use a real big piece of tape. We don't want this to get stuck in our final stitching because then we just have to take it out, which is annoying. So we're just going to roll our pocket up and tape it. And we're going to put this back on our machine here. And stitch our last step. And all this is doing is giving us our outline to be able to cut our whole pattern out. We are now done with the stitching portion of this. So I've taken it off the hoop, or off the machine, sorry. This is my line all around here. That is the shape of my purse. I'm gonna cut it out. I prefer to cut it out while it is still on the stabilizer because it gives it a little more stiffness. If you use any sort of stabilizer, iron-on, fusible, whatever you might have used, then you don't need to keep your stabilizer on for this portion of it because it's already kind of stiff. I'm going to open my zipper, pull all of this out. I can untape my pocket now also. We need our pocket to be shorter than where our stitching will go across. We need it right where your pocket lines up with this edge. We're going to trim it. So you have straight across, your pocket is all on the inside of these lines. Next, you're going to turn it and turn it. This is just going to be a little pocket. And then you're going to iron this flat and do the same with the bottom one. And then I'm going to do the same thing and make sure that it lines up with my other pocket or my other piece. But I want these to be even. Not quite even. Tuck a little more. And this is not going to ever be seen. You'll only see the inside of your pocket. So if this is not completely perfect, it's not that big of a deal. And then we're going to take it to our regular sewing machine. So our pocket is little, as you can see. I'm at my regular sewing machine here. If you want this a little bigger, you can trim this to make this a little longer. The point is you can't get it within 1/4 to 1/2 inch of this seam right here. So if you want to cut this and trim this down and make your pocket a little bit more narrow because you're going to line it up with this anyway, you can do that to make it a little bigger. I don't mind a little tiny pocket. I'm just going to turn it upside down, keep these pieces, as you can see, out of the way, and stitch straight down it. Now I want to reinforce this bottom because this is our turn hole. That's where we're going to turn our whole purse bag through. So as you can see, I went semi-close. You want to line up right there. I should have moved that over. I'll go ahead and sew that a little straighter now because you never see these edges anyway. You can go from the other side if you want it better than what I'm doing because I realize my sewing is a little atrocious. I'm going to reinforce this several times and meet up with that line. If you are also a sketchy sewer like me, you're in luck because you can clean these up, of course. I'm leaving mine because you're not going to see it anyway. And you're going to have a little tiny pocket right here. You'll be able to turn your bag and you can put your glasses, your chapstick, all kinds of stuff in it still. And now this portion is done. We're setting this aside and doing it one more time for the other side. Now we have our panels. I use some panels from Fairy Tale Prints. These are from the MAV packs. They're the 120 size MAV panels because they are 8.5 inches by like 10 and something or another. But I cut them down to the pattern size that is 8.5. And we are ready to start. We stitch step 1. And I'm just doing it in red thread so you can see it in the video. This is the assembly part of it. So make sure you load the right design. There's our placement. This is just showing where you're going to position your panel so you can make sure that you have your little guy in the middle. I'm gonna scooch you this way. Flowers, even. Got it. And then we're stitching step 2, which will put your panel down where it needs to go. So I'm going to take this off the hoop and show you some things first. If you have a single needle, you are done with this panel because you are not going to be able to clear the foot height that you're going to need going around to put your gusset all on. So you need to do the rest of this on a regular sewing machine. So you're going to take this off and repeat it for your second panel. This is important. It's your shape to be able to cut it out. But if you see, there's some important lines that you can see better in person, of course, and there's one up there, and there's one at the very bottom. These are your very important mark points that you're going to use to line things up. So this is why you want to stitch this when you have a panel, even if you're not using an embroidery machine to finish it, because you need all of these markers and the shape to be able to continue sewing. Since I do have a multi-needle, lucky me, I'm going to now be able to go to the next step. We're going to start by taking our gusset and line up the middle, our little seams, fold it in half, and we're going to make a little teeny snippy on this side, and make sure we're lined up on this side because we need to mark our middles so that we know where our center is on the top and the bottom, and we're going to do the same thing on the bottom here. Snippy. Same thing over here. Snippy. All right, we are set. Here's our gusset all ready to go. We're ready to start putting our gusset on. Our little mark that we have right here, we want it lined up with right over the seam where this meets. Now notice my zipper is on this side to have it closed. This is my closed side. This is my open side. And I have my leather to leather. My fabric is up. I can tape this, hot glue this however I want. I'm just going to take it to my machine and hold it as I do it. And again, it just goes right over that little line. So the seam is right on the line so that it stitches on top of that. Now it's going to jump. I'm going to pause it and make sure you squishy this down so you don't catch anything. We're moving to our next spot. Our seam right here gets lined up right in line here, and it overlaps it just slightly. And it finishes stitching step 3. Again, it's gonna jump. So make sure this is not gonna get caught anyway. Our next step, we have our little line, and it's gonna do our tops and bottoms to tack those down. We want our little tiny stitched line with the center of our V. We're gonna overlap it slightly and stitch step 4. And again, it's gonna jump. So watch out for that. I'm gonna pause it. Whoops, I caught that. You can see it. You will catch it. Make sure if you catch it, you need to reset it so that it's actually on line. You didn't knock your hoop off. Again, right sides are still down. I'm gonna line my V up and I'm gonna press go. And it jumps. Make sure you're not catching anything too much. And we're ready to go to step 5. We look like this now. It is tacked down in 4 spots. We're going to tack this down in the next step, and we want it to, our little line that we've stitched all across here needs to be just over our stitched line that goes all the way around here, all the way around in a circle. Because this, you space it out as evenly as possible with as few wrinkles. And we're going to stitch slowly. Have it go in the slowest setting. Stitch a few steps, re-rotate it. Stitch a few more. And you can see this jagged oopsie method. It's okay. It gets covered up later by a very smooth stitch that's done, and it won't matter. And you want to make sure as you go that you're catching all of it and that it's rounded with the edges. And if you are afraid to hold your fingers this close, reasonable fear in life, use tweezers, use tape, use a glue gun, however it is that you are happy with making it stay. And you can see that I am just letting it go all the way around, pausing as needed, making sure that it's in that nice round shape. And if I get too far away, then I just readjust how it's going. I do this going the entire way around. Now I've hit that landmark right there, which is fantastic because I know I have no bubbles or wrinkles or pleats going anywhere. Checking to make sure that my line is right here, my stitched line, and that I am overlapping as needed, just to that little bit of an inside. Keep going. There. And again, here is another little mark point where it's stitched down. So yay, I have not had any boo-boos yet. And sometimes you will boo-boo and you need to take it out. It happens. These are fairly large stitches, so it's not too hard to take out. As you can see up here, it's laying nice and flat, so I have not had any boo-boos, which is great to hear. One more time around here. Great. And now it is all tacked down. We are to here. All done for that step. We're moving on to step 6. Our next step is going to involve our liners. We're going to line up our stitching so that our seams and our stitches are all together, to fold it in half to find your middle point. See? And I'm going to cut a little notch out, and I'm going to do the same on the bottom because we're going to need to know where our centers are, top and bottom. I'm going to repeat for the other one also. They go this direction. This is our closed, but I'm going to go ahead and leave our zipper open, just easier for later. We are now up to step 6 on our machine. We are going to squishy this down, take our liner. Where's our zipper? Our zipper is right here. It goes with the zipper on the upside, the top side, not an upside. We're going to line up our little V notches. You can see them right there. And again, you can tape this if needed, rather than trying to hold it, whatever you're comfortable with. It does the top one and it's going to jump to the bottom one. So I'm going to pause it and let it jump and squish all this down, make sure I don't catch it. We get to the bottom, find my V, there it is, and squish it right there. So now I have my points lined up, so we can have a little bit, oopsie, don't catch, there we go, of an easier time making sure that everything is going to lay flat. Over here, you can see where you have your zipper meets the seam. You want to line this seam up with that seam. So I take this seam, and it's about right there, a little overlapped, and I'm just going to hold it while I stitch this part. And I'm going to do just like before, where we are pausing it often. Same idea. It's tacked down on the bottom, you can see, so it's keeping it nice and tight. We're going to keep it, try to keep all of our wrinkles out, and the same concept, letting it go a bit at a time. Again, use tweezers if you are not comfortable with keeping your hands in the way like this. Okay, I'm just going to pull it a little harder right here because the final stitching, you can see that it lined up with the bottom. Again, we're just going to keep going around, holding onto our fabric as needed. As we get closer to things, to the top, then it needs to stretch a little more because you've got a lump there, obviously. I'm going to squish this down a little more with this hand. Push my fabric flatter. Let it go. Now we've gotten to this point over here where our zipper is. And I'm going to, again, I want it to line up. You can see it from this side, which unfortunately Mom is at the wrong angle. Good try, Mom. I want my lines to line up over here. So I'm going to try to pull a little bit harder and hold it. And then we get to the top. I'm going to squish this back all down because I can reach through here. You can see my pocket is open so that I can see, and I can pull my gusset to flatten it out more because it is all scrunched up under there as I've been moving it around. And I'm just going to pull this section in back a little tighter and push down and continue stitching. Getting towards the top, squishing my gusset back flat and moving my fabric over. And we have now made a complete circle of it. And now it's all tacked down. Now we are on step 8, so all this crooked is going to get covered up. And since it's already tacked down, we don't have to touch it at all. And our stitching is finished and we're ready for the next part. We're going to take it off the hoop. I'm going to tear my stabilizer all off. You really want to make sure you get all the stabilizer because it's just going to make it thicker and that's a little harder to stitch through. We have this. I'm going to trim all around the edges. And I don't want to get too close to any of it, but I do want to get close enough that I don't have a big gouge of fabric sticking out. That makes it harder to lay flat later. Now, if you are brave, you can do the little teeny tiny snippies that people like to do on the vinyl to make it, it's like a 1/16 of an inch, and people really, really believe that that helps it lay flat later. I believe them. I'm just not really brave enough to cut my project because I've had too many boo-boos. So I don't actually do that. But I might, like, you can see it's a little long right there. And later making it lay flat is kind of hard. So I get the whole little clippy thing, but I'm not willing to do it. But I do suggest it if you're brave enough. So here's our little pocket. This is what we turn it through. Squish it all through. And this is part of why we wanted to be sure that we reinforce the edges of our pocket. And here we go. We are doing pretty well. This is what it'll look like. And you'll obviously flatten all of these guys out. And here's your inside. And your pocket is still loose, just in case you made a boo-boo and you're going to need to be able to hand stitch something because you messed something up and don't want to trash your whole project. I leave my pocket open. We're not going to stitch it closed yet. Now we're ready for the next part. Assembly part 2 is the same design that we just did, just slightly different, of course, as you're doing it because you have more pieces together. So just like the first one, you stitch the outline. And then I'm going to center Miss Moo right here. is going up a little. Try to center her horns. All right, Mooster. You're right there. And we stitch step 2. Step 3, I don't know if you can see it, is a little teeny tiny bit right there and right there. That's lining up our little things up here, just like the other one. So we are taking leathers to leathers, and we want our ridge, this where the seam meets, to go just over that, right there. And you can tape this, tweezer, hold it, however it is that you want to do. Let's see, I moved a little. Don't move it as you think, as you talk. And we let it stitch there. I'm going to pause it because it's going to jump. I'm keeping all of this down. And it's going to go do it on the other side. So I need to bend this down. And again, line up my seam right with this and overlap it just slightly. Don't catch. Next is the top part, and I get my little V up at the very top. And again, I overlap my V just slightly. Mom's trying really hard to focus the camera. You can see the little teeny tiny mark right there, right on top. And again, if you're not comfortable getting your fingers this close, that's probably much smarter. And just use tweezers. I'm going to pause it, and it'll jump into the bottom one. Trying to not let anything get caught. And again, leather to leather always. And Mommy, can you back up just a moment so I get some light? There it is. Okay. Overlapping just slightly. So just like before with our gusset, we now have it tacked down in 4 places. You want to try to squishy this all down so it doesn't catch. So single needle users, if you're watching, I hope you can see why it is so obvious that it would be scary doing this on a single needle. And if you want to chance it, you can. Of course, it's your money, but you might be getting a new machine soon because it's really going to catch. The next step is going to go around as a basting stitch, and we're just like before, going to pause it every however often to stretch it all out, make sure it goes around nice and evenly, keeping fingers out of the way. Darn it, my little button here, Mommy, show me the button. She's worn out. She's like 12 or 13 years old. Ooh, there she goes, and she only sometimes gets it. Which is why sometimes I have to stop. Oopsie, oops, stop, oh, see? That's exactly why I'm talking about you can't use that button. So we're going to go to the table and take that out and back up in just a moment. All right, stitches taken out, backing the machine up because you all saw that lovely fail. If you have a fail, that's why the stitches are big and you can take them out. Using the correct button that actually works on my machine now, and continuing on. Rounding and rounding. Someday I might get that button fixed, right about when I get needle 4 fixed. I'm going to bend this side back down and continue. Every once in a while you got to go back and locate your thread from the first one. Continue along. I'm going to try to fudge it all over that direction. Make it as flat and smooth as possible. It gets a little jagged, like right there, because no matter what you do, you're pulling on your hoop. I don't have any wrinkles. continue on. All the way to the top. Now we're ready for our liner top. We're ready for our liner. This is a big, huge, globby mess. That's okay. We're gonna try to squish it down the best we can. Zipper on the up side, which is also the top. I keep saying that. Line up your little V points with the top V. Wow, trying hard there. It's a little harder once you've gotten it this thick. And we're gonna stitch step, what is this, 6. And tack down the front, top, not the front. I'm gonna pause it because it's gonna jump over this big mess. You gotta make sure you squish this down to clear everything. And then squish it back. And we need our liner. Needs to come forward. Still squishing. Our little V needs to be lined up with the previous V. You can see that little V right there. I had Mom push the button. Maybe it's a team effort when you have to this point. Now you have your top and your bottom tacked down. Go to the top. Now, this, again, you want to try to keep this lined up with the previous one. You're stitching, you're stitching. And we're going to do the same thing we did before of letting it go around in the circle. And this actually looks pretty good. I'm going to let this run for a bit right there. Keep going. Nope. Keep going. Oop, I'm going to try to squish this flatter just a little bit underneath there. And a little pull there. More. And we get to our bottom where it's tacked down. Yay, we made it. Moving on around, and I'm just pulling this. I'm gonna reach under Mom's arm as she's videoing me to stretch this all the way across because we need this lined up. That's different. We want to make sure that we catch it all along here and line this all up. So I am holding it and letting it sketch. Moving my hand because I do not want to get me. And again, trying to line up my little spot up here with my other lines so that they're all the same stitching. Readjust how I'm holding. Oh, I'm going to squish some of this down to the other side now. Oh, I missed some, so I'm going to back that up. Just trying to avoid Mom's camera phone. This needs to be squished over a little bit more. Squish a little more. And a little more. Now I've caught it all the way around. So now when it does the final stitching, you're not going to have to touch it at all. So there's no pulling, which means it'll catch all of it. And our stitching is complete. We're going to take it off. We're going to remove all of our stabilizers. And now I'm going to cut out around my edges. And here, if you want to do your little snippy snips, again, I'm not, but I totally understand why people do it. It does lay flatter easier without ironing and pressing. We're going to turn it inside out through the hole in our pocket. We're turning the entire thing, shove, shove, shove. You can do it. So now I have a perfect inside out purse. But now you can reach through the big zipper and you can turn it right side out. However, before I do that, you normally want to check and make sure you got everywhere all your seams. I'm just going to say, other than this thread right here, I did because I'm not going through the whole thing in the video. I'm pulling my pocket out. This is where you had turned it and pressed it flat. I'm just holding it here and I'm going to take it to my machine. Here we have this. I'm just pulling it flat and stitching straight across it. And this is the standard Walmart sewing machine. Even the cheapest amount was a chunk. So my machine is going to run on love forever. And I tuck my pocket back in, the little stabilizer I missed. And I zip my pocket up. And I can move to my next pocket. Pull it out. I'll tuck my little pocket in. And now we turn it right side out through the zipper opening. And we are going to straighten out all of our seams, make it all nice and round with our fingers. You can iron it, whatever your method that you prefer to make it all flat. And here we go. How cute is this little guy? Now we need a strap, so we'll get to that in a moment. So my purse sewing is all done. You can see it is lined completely on the inside. There's 2 little zipper pockets, and you can fit, I don't know, scissors pretty well in it. They're not big pockets. They're definitely useful for all sorts of things, and you have one on both sides. And we have straightened it mostly out. Again, you can do better with a blow dryer if you want to iron, however you want to do it. But our handle, I did in the 8x12 hoop. I did not cut that perfectly straight. I'm just going to trim that up right now while we're talking. And it is a simple rectangle. It is 3/4 by 12 inches. I'm using these little clasp things. They call them 4,000 different types of names on Amazon. They came in a big packet. They come with the pliers. You simply line it up. And carefully, don't squish your fingers, but you want to keep it lined up so it's straight. Squish, and then give it a big squish to squeeze it. And there you go. I'm going to go to the other end, and you can see it has a little, I don't know, stabbers. So I want those on the same size. Oh, Mom's calling them grippers. I thought stabbers sound better. I'm going to squeeze carefully and slowly, not getting my hands, but setting it so that it stays, and then grip. And then this is the split key ring. Oopsie. So I'm just going to open it up and go right through my little loop. And then do the same on the other side. Through my loop. And there we go. We have our perfect little purse. It is all set. And again, you're going to want to do a little better job than we did of straightening it all out. But there we go.
That's super
Thanks
cute.
for joining us.
Bye-bye.